cornerback, Tim, I feel like this is the second biggest need on the team. I feel like it's center and then it's cornerback. It's center / interior offensive line because you could go a multitude of directions there. But cornerback is one of those positions that I do feel like we could do a lot better than what we've got on the roster right now. I'm not saying you should cut any of the guys because they are on reasonable deals. Like, I feel like none of our cornerbacks are being overpaid right now. It's just the question is, are they worthy of being the number 1 and the number 2 corner on the team? That's the big question for me. So you've got to create competition, and you've got to improve that room every way you possibly can. So let's talk about the top cornerback fixes for the Packers here. The top free agents according to NFL IQ. And again, these are ranked by Greg Rosenthal's top 101 free agents. In the number 15 spot, you got Jamel Dean. He's your top rated cornerback. Number 28, you got Jaylen Watson. Number 30, you got Alontae Taylor. 36, Riq Woolen. 52, Nashawn Wright. 54, Cordell Flott. 62, Josh Joby. 65, Monteric Brown. 72, Greg Newsome. 76, Cater Cahoe, I think I'm saying, or Cahoe, maybe. 91, Trayvon Diggs. And 100, Kobe Bryant. If you go on down the list here, you see Eric Stokes on that list on down there. You see Marshawn Lattimore, Rasul Douglas, some of these other guys that they've got rated a little bit lower. The Packers have been tied to Cam Taylor-Britt a little bit. They seem to be interested in him. He's lower on the list as well. Now, one thing I want you to key in on, since we've got this pulled up right now, let's notice the top speed. All right, this is next-gen stats, GPS tracking. Who was clocked the fastest? All right. So Jamel Dean, 20.5 miles per hour. Jaylen Watson, 20.9. Alontae Taylor, 22.2 miles per hour. So physical freak there. Riq Woolen, 22.4. Right off the bat, the thing that sticks out to me, Tim, the 2 fastest cornerbacks in terms of miles per hour are 2 I like the least. So it's like, if I watch the tape and I look at the PFF grades, and I break everything down that's important to me, passer rating when targeted, stuff like that, right? Penalties, all that stuff. When I break it down and I get my list together and I look on here and go, why are they so high? And then you fall to the far right color. Oh, because they're fast. Got it. I'm telling you guys, I'm sick of it. I'm tired of focusing on speed and perfect size. And those things matter, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But at some point, we've got to acknowledge that when you're losing these close games, it doesn't have as much to do with my guy's not fast enough, my guy's not tall enough, his arms need to be an inch longer. It's, boy, he broke late on that ball. Boy, he didn't put forth the amount of effort you'd like to see him in a goal line situation to try to make a tackle and prevent a touchdown. Boy, he was late getting to his spot across all these things, right?
Yep.
To me, it's more about football IQ and what the tape shows. And then when you get those clusters of, well, these guys look the same, now use those miles per hour. Now use those agility measurements, those height, those weight, all that stuff, right? Because like D'Angelo Ponce, we're going to talk about him in a second.
Yeah, we are.
The big knock on him is he's too damn short. But
you ever watch him play corner?
Yeah, and he jumped out of the gym, right? He showed you, okay, if you're worried about me being short, I got higher than everybody else in the vertical. What else you need to know? Right. So again, we can continue to just do the same thing over and over and over, and then act surprised in January when we got the youngest roster in the league and we're making the most mistakes, or we've got athletic freaks on the field but they can't make a play. Right. For me, at the end of the day,
conversation about D line. We were talking about D tackles, and we said you got to be more than big. You can't just be a big dude. You gotta be able to be a football player and play that position with proper technique. And like you said, FBI is something that you can learn, right? You can't necessarily teach speed and these other things, but you can learn FBI and be a better football player. And especially at the corner position, I'll take a guy that's a shade slower, and a better football player than the speed demon out there who, is in the wrong place or doesn't know his assignment,
Yeah. It's like Keyshawn Nixon is sneaky fast. When you've seen him on kick returns, you've seen it. Like he is, he is very, very quick, very, very athletic in that regard. Well, what's the big knock on him? He gave up a ton of touchdowns. His passer rating when targeted was through the roof. Okay. Why? Because he's biting on double moves and not playing his assignment. Right. Okay. So I would rather have a player that if I need you in a deep third, I know hell or high water, you're going to be in the deep third. You're not going to get beat over the top. Okay. Yep. I can get beat underneath. That's fine. Now, if you're playing a curl flat, responsibility, that's different. I want you to be aggressive. And if they beat you 2.5 yards over your outside shoulder on a perfectly thrown ball and an out route, not many quarterbacks can make that throw perfectly, consistently in the National Football League, college football, anywhere, right? So, like, you're trying to minimize the offense's opportunity to be successful. Well, what you're doing is you're maximizing their opportunity to be successful when you're just constantly biting on stuff underneath, right? So you need somebody to play technically sound first and foremost. Guys, the scheme is designed to stop everything the offense is throwing at you. The offensive scheme is designed to trick you into seeing stuff that you don't see, i.e. a double move. And if you stay scheme responsible and cover your over-the-top technique, it doesn't matter they hit you with a double move. Now, does that mean they're going to hit you underneath occasionally? Absolutely. I'd rather give up an 8-yard first down than a 60-yard touchdown because you got aggressive and bid on everything underneath. I'm telling you, man, it was all over the tape with these cornerbacks. They are going to bite on the double move. Jair did it as well. Guess where Key learned it from? It was Jair. Now, when he picks a pass off, we love it. But again, I would rather us have given up 3 less long touchdowns and have one fewer interception than the opposite. If that makes sense. So that when you look at some of this stuff, that's the things that come into play for me. Andres in the chat says, I want Trayvon Diggs on a cheap deal. I completely agree. His market value, Tim, is showing like $2 million right now. If you can get him for $4 million, take a swing on some of these guys who have played at an elite level earlier in their career that maybe don't look as good right now, as opposed to just going out and going, okay, Riq Woolen ran 22 and a half miles per hour. Let's go sign him. So Jamel Dean's at the top of the list for me right now, if you can afford it. But again, Trayvon Diggs is one of those guys. Andres, what I'd like to see is them spend about $8 to $10 million on one of these upper echelon guys that you can get a decent deal on and still bring back Trayvon Diggs. I guarantee you, those 2 corners you add, Tim, probably going to go to number 1 and number 2 on the depth chart at the cornerback room. Yeah,
definitely. And I think that was the experiment last year, right? I don't think that it's ridiculous to assume that we're gonna get Trayvon Diggs back in Green Bay on a cheaper deal for sure. And then, like you said, is who are you going to pair him with, and who's ultimately going to stay in that room and who's not going to be here in 2026. That's the other thing. We can talk about Nate Hobbs. There's a few other names back there. Who knows where they'll end up, whether they're Packers or if they are, where they're going to be on the depth chart. But I'm with you, man. I just feel like the interest in Cam Taylor-Britt, goes back to last season with the Packers. He was on the radar before the trade deadline. And I wonder how aggressive they're going to actually pursue him. And could he be that other corner in addition to Trayvon Diggs? There's some other names up here that I'm with you. I think I'd rather have a Jamel Dean or somebody like that. But my gut's telling me Cam Taylor-Britt might be a Packer at some point.
And Greg Newsome worries me too. I'm not a big Greg Newsome guy, and it's kind of the same thing. If Gutey probably had high second-round grades on both Greg Newsome and Taylor-Britt, and I could see him going, "Hey, we can change him, we can fix him." And to me, it just hasn't worked out much in the past. Jason in the chat says Diggs and Brown. I would love that combination. Those are 2 guys on my cheat sheet, Jason. Yeah. Obviously, Trayvon Diggs you can get on a decent deal. Let's look down here at both of those guys. Let's see what their projected market value is. So Trayvon Diggs is he even on the list? There he is. So they got him at 7.5 market value right now is what they're showing. So it has jumped back up. That's probably more realistic. That's why I was saying if you can get him back at like $5 million, I'd be all about that, right? They were showing $2 million a couple of days ago. It's hard to believe he was just going to go for 2, but typically it's somewhere in the middle. He thinks he's worth 10. Some of the comps are showing 2, probably going to fall 5 to 7. I could see that. So that's where he falls in. And then, of course, Montaric Brown is showing 9.2. Now, keep in mind, guys, if you go a 9.2 AAV for somebody like Montaric Brown and you give a 3-year deal, that first year, the cap hit's probably going to be about $6 million. So guess what Keyshawn Nixon's cap hit was last year? $6 million. It was like $6 to $7 million. So it's not going to break the bank by no stretch of the imagination. If you go get a Montaric Brown, like Jason's saying, as well as a Trayvon Diggs, then total what you've spent is roughly $16 million in AAV, shave about $4 million off that, probably going to be $12 million against the cap in the first year, and you just added 2 starting cornerbacks most likely compared to, who you've got in-house. You feel a lot better about the cornerback position. Now, if you go a different route, Tim, and you go like Jaylen Watson, 12.4, I'd be okay with that. Jamel Dean at 12.4, that to me would be awesome. Get him for 12.4, first year cap hit $10 million. Okay, somewhere around there, $9 to $10 million, depending on how you structure the contract. Guaranteed money will fluctuate the AAV and how the cap is actually allocated. But if you go Jamel Dean here at 12.4, and let's say you do a little bargain shopping down toward the bottom, I'm just trying to take a look at some of these guys that grab my attention. Like Rasul Douglas, they're showing him at $4 million. He played great last year, and in 2023, 2024 was a bad year, right? So it's like you get some veteran presence. Maybe he won't beat out Keyshawn as the opposite corner. But for $4 million per, you get a veteran that if somebody has an injury, he could step right in and play good football. Maybe that's a good combination to go with a couple different corners in that direction.
I would agree. I mean, especially when you look at some of the values. Like I keep fixating on Cam Taylor-Britt, at $9 million. I think there's a few more creative ways we could round out that cornerback room as opposed to, coming even close to that for him. And that's not a knock on Cam Taylor-Britt. He's a really good corner, but like you said, you overpay for great, not for really good, right?
Absolutely. Completely agree. And on down the list here, I was looking at a couple of, like, Eric Stokes is interesting. They're showing him at 7.3, man. He played great last year, but we've seen the downside to that, right? Maybe that's the new Eric Stokes. I hope it is for his sake, right? Seems like a great guy. Any interactions fans had with him in Green Bay, they absolutely love the dude, right? So I'm rooting for him. I just don't know if I'd be willing to pay him $7.3 million, right? And essentially, this is going to be a deal very similar to Nate Hobbs' deal, too. It's going to be a 3-year deal that's really a 2, right? Or a 3 that's really a 1, if that makes sense. So, just going at it. Roger McCreary's another one we liked a little bit as well. Let's look at the top prospects. However, if you want to go in the draft here, maybe you do a combination, man. Maybe you go and get Monteric Brown, or you get Trayvon Diggs, and then you still draft somebody at 52. According to NFL IQ, the top prospects here in terms of cornerbacks, Colton Hood with an 82 overall grade. DJ had him at 26. And I love this, Tim. NFL.com, NFL IQ's overall grades do not match up in any way, shape, or form with Daniel Jeremiah's top 50. And I love that because more information, the better, right? So 82 overall for Colton Hood. Charles Demings, actually, I'm missing one there because I know, is Delane, really? They've got Delane significantly lower. Tim, look at this. They've got him with a 70. Let me just go down the list here. Colton Hood, 82, but he's 26 on DJ's big board. Charles Demings, 79. Chris Johnson, 79. Chris Johnson is my guy. I'm just telling you. That's the corner I want. D'Angelo Pons, close second for me, picking it at 52, right? He's got a 78. Mansour Delane is a 77 with Devin Moore there. That's really interesting because we've got Mansour Delane as the top corner with a 9 grade. We're saying he's worthy of a top 10 pick. Now, DJ agrees. He says he's the 8th best prospect. So that overall grade is very, very interesting. And it looks like what's bringing Mansour down is probably they've only got a 65 at athleticism. So it's probably an incomplete athleticism grade is what's bringing him down at the moment. That would be my guess. So that's probably explains why he is where he is. Now, Devin Moore, you got Chandler Rivers, 76, along with Andre Fuller, Brandon Cease, who the Packers met with, along with Jermod McCoy and Avian Terrell, and Daylen Everette all have 75s. Julian Neal has a 75 as well in terms of grades. Then Davison Igbinosun with a 74. Malik Muhammad, who the Packers met with out of Texas, at a 73. Takario Davis, 73. Ephesians Prysock, 73. When you compare these guys, Tim, to our PTA big board, the big thing that sticks out to me is we've got Chris Johnson as kind of the first mock fall in our range. We'll see. Recently, Daniel Jeremiah, he finally made Daniel Jeremiah's top 50 list. He's now 42nd, last I checked. Okay, so DJ thinks he's probably going to be gone when we pick at 52 unless we're willing to trade up. D'Angelo Pons is right behind him at a 40.4. Those are the two. If you're going to go corner, those are the two I would like, Chris Johnson or D'Angelo Pons. This is where people enter the chat and say, no way would Gutey draft Pons. I understand. I get it. It pisses me off, but I'm still going to voice my opinion just like I did with Brian Branch and say, that's my guy right there. So what do you think about corner, man, in terms of the draft, Tim? How does it stick out to you? Any thoughts on that, man?
I agree at 52. I mean, Johnson and Pons would be my picks, right? And there's a chance that one of them's available. And I don't know how aggressive, again, free agency will probably give us some insight, but how aggressive are we going to be, at 52? Do we want to go after somebody at the cornerback position early and trade up to get him? If, in fact, Johnson's our guy or Pons is our guy, we don't know what's going on in that war room there with Gutey. So, but I mean, I'm with you. I think I would lean Chris Johnson just slightly over D'Angelo Pons as far as who my favorite would be out of that crop. But there's a couple other sneaky good corners, even if we can't grab someone at 52, there might be someone at 84 or 120 even that we could grab. But I think it does thin out as you get a little later in the draft.
Yeah. And when you look at the production grade in college, just strictly production grade, hands down, D'Angelo Pons is the leader at 82, right? Now, Chris Johnson, not so much. His production was 70. All right. So that's the difference between those two. Again, Pons is just one of those guys that we don't have a 40 time and all that yet. He did have a 43.5-inch vertical, which is insane to me. But again, it's his height and size that's going to hurt him in this draft. If he's there at 52, man, the production is just through the freaking roof, man. You've seen it all over the time. I mean, he literally, Mansour Delane is probably going to go top 10 in this draft, right? And D'Angelo Pons had a better college football career than Mansour Delane, if that tells you anything. Well, what school did he play at? He played at Indiana, the national champions. Like, this dude went through the gauntlet of the college football playoff and played great football as well. Think about this, and this is going to upset some people, and we'll move on. Put yourself back on your couch, drinking that daddy soda, watching the fourth quarter, us give up 25 points to the Bears, okay? And as soon as the game's over, what's everybody saying on Twitter? We just can't close out game. We just can't win. We can't win the big one. You can't ever, they play their worst in the biggest moments, blah, blah, blah. Here you've got a guy that played his best football in the biggest moments, and we're going to pass up on him because he's short.
Yeah. That's the only knock anyone can seem to come up with on D'Angelo Pons is he's short.
Right.
You guys watch the combine? I mean, everything else is good as far as the measurables. I mean, that dude is, ripped and in the best shape of his life. And like we just talked about, he's a damn good corner. And that's what you're trying to draft. You're not drafting height. If D'Angelo Pons was 6'1", we wouldn't even be having this conversation right now.
Exactly. If D'Angelo Pons was 6'1", he's probably a top 3 pick. That's what's hilarious about the whole situation. So, all right. So there you go, guys. That's a quick look at the cornerback situation and kind of where we got guys ranked. We got our favorites. I want to know, who are your favorites? What direction would you like to see the Packers go in when it comes to fixing the cornerback room here in Green Bay? Let us know in the comments. Hit that like button for us. Hit subscribe. Click the bell icon so you catch all the future live streams with breaking news as we get deeper into free agents.